תל אביב 360, ערוץ הפודקאסטים של אוניברסיטת תל אביב.
I'm really honored for the opportunity to contribute to this series, this lecture series about Walt Whitman, Leaves of Grass, Song of Myself, and multilingual responses to Walt Whitman. So the preeminent collection, Leaves of Grass, was not just one book, but many books. So the first edition of Leaves of Grass was published by Whitman himself in 1855, and he revised and expanded the collection through the Civil War period until the last edition, which was in 1891-92. Now, Whitman indicated that he wished for the last edition to be the definitive one, the final one. But it's you know, and so that edition is sort of known by scholars as the deathbed edition. However, we have all the editions of Leaves of Grass available to us to read and interpret. Now, I've included some images of the editions so you can, see how the covers looked and sort of trace the years of publication, right? So 1855, okay, 1856, 1860-61, towards the Civil War, the US Civil War, 1867, already post-Civil War, and these are the final three US editions. Okay, now, in terms of poetic form, Whitman is known as the father of free verse, okay, with long flowing lines, no fixed rhyme or meter, a lot of repetition, and what's called cataloging. Okay, cataloging is where poetry contains a lot of lists, okay, which makes room for everyone and everything in the poetry. Okay, for example, and thinking about Whitman, that's men, women, slaves, indigenous people, okay? His poetry sought to lift up impoverished, marginalized figures in society. Okay, now, signature themes in Leaves of Grass are America, okay, democracy, nature, spirituality, physical intimacy between men and between men and women. Okay, for Whitman, the body was a source of the divine. And he wrote Leaves with a mission to preserve and shape a democratic America in his time and into the future. Now, within the project of Leaves of Grass, there are several exceptionally famous poems, okay? So those are Crossing Brooklyn Ferry, Oh Captain, My Captain, I Sing the Body Electric, okay, and lots of others. Here today, I've chosen to focus on the long poem, Song of Myself, which a few of you may be familiar with. Okay, now, Song of Myself likewise went through many revisions between the 1855 edition and the 1891-92. Okay, now, Song of Myself only appeared under this title in the third edition, that's the 1860. Now I have the first of 52 sections of the poem, so you can imagine how long it really is, something like 80 pages, all right, including an image of the actual page from Leaves of Grass. Okay, so you can really see how it was, how it appears on the page, the design of it, okay, the typeface. And this is from the actual text transcribed in the Whitman archive. Now, what I'm going to do is just read from the first 5 lines from section 1. I celebrate myself and sing myself, and what I assume, you shall assume. For every atom belonging to me, as good belongs to you. I loaf and invite my soul. I lean and loaf at my ease, observing a spear of summer grass. So you can note the, free verse form, the rhythm and the musicality of the lines, as well as some of the, characteristic Whitmanian motifs, like life and death, democracy, and a celebration of the individual, the I, right? That first person I, which is also a celebration of every reader. I celebrate myself and sing myself. Okay, now, what's remarkable about Whitman's poetry is not just the themes and forms that were progressive for the time. Okay, it's that there were really tens of poets and critics, authors, musicians, and artists who have responded to Whitman in poetry, prose, art, from his own time in the 19th century until today. And what I'm going to touch on in the remaining time is that far beyond English language responses, there are responses from all over the world, to Whitman in general and Song of Myself in particular. So among but a few of the transnational responses to Whitman's poetry and prose are found in Germany, throughout Asia, South America, Iceland, Russia, Italy, Spain, France, Britain, So too many to name here, but you get the point. And I want to take you through a few examples of translations of the Song of Myself, especially this first section, for everyone to notice how Whitman resonates across cultures and languages. So the first thing I'm going to show you here is the Chinese Song of Myself. Now, I don't speak Chinese, I'm not a Chinese reader, but if you just think back to those first lines, I celebrate myself and sing myself, and what I assume, you shall assume. For every atom belonging to me, as good belongs to you. See if you can already start to detect that translation in Chinese. Just sort of see how it starts to resonate as Whitmanian, even if we don't understand the language, right? There's something with poetry that goes beyond meaning, right? And it's like in the way it appears on the page. And then I've also given you the French. For those French readers and speakers, this is a translation from 1966. I won't try to read it myself because I would absolutely ruin the experience perhaps for you, but we can see how it appears. And notice again these same three lines and then the repetition of the beginning of the lines in the second two lines. Can see how it reflects. Even the Chinese is somehow starts to be evident here. Now here we have, these are very famous and well-known translations of Whitman by Shimon Halkin, in 1952. A few of you may already be familiar with this. So this is the Hebrew Song of Myself. Just take a look. Again, the three lines, and then the two lines, same section. And maybe if you'll, again, please excuse my accent, but I will just read from I think the first line. And I did practice this earlier, so I'm keeping fingers crossed. Ani mekales et etzmi ve'ani shar et etzmi. Ani mekales et etzmi ve'ani shar et etzmi, right? That's the Hebrew. I celebrate myself and sing myself. Now, if you'll notice, this poem, the translation, is in the masculine. okay, which is a choice that's not in Whitman, right? And of course, there's a lot of questions when it comes to translating Whitman, like how can you, because in Whitman, you don't have the separation of the masculine and feminine, you have something, right, that's like not with those constraints. So there are other different translations, even in the Hebrew, okay, but we can see how this appears. This is the Hindi, okay? I gave it to you because it is both very different, but also very similar, okay? Same thing, we have the title, Song of Myself, then the lines. We have the Polish. Now, if this were a longer talk, I think what I would do is like seek out speakers of these languages and have them read themselves, right? So we could even hear them. But that's for like a talk with more time and more time to invite people to participate. But this is the Polish, okay, for any Polish speakers. And this is the Arabic, okay? This is, as far as I understand, a pretty newer translation from English to Arabic of Song of Myself. So again, you can take a look, the same 3 lines, the same 2 lines. Now there's also, because I've been working on this talk, I've done some additional research on this, and there's quite a bit of material on the different versions of Song of Myself that are translated into Arabic. I guess there's 2 main ones, and I did include some scholarship in my works cited. Okay, and certainly you're welcome to ask me about any of this later when we're finished. Okay, we also have the Spanish. Perhaps there are Spanish speakers here. Okay. Yo me celebro. Okay, so we have, again, the repetition right at the beginning of the line. The listing, the anaphora. And last but not least, I'm just including the Yiddish. Okay, now Whitman was a very important figure for Yiddish language writers, okay, in the US in particular. And you find a lot of, responses to Whitman, translations of Whitman. You find also just certain adaptations or commentary on Whitman. Okay, so you can sort of see how this, now this is not the first section, okay, this is section 24, but you can see that it was by L. Miller, and it appeared in the Yiddish literary journal that was called Schriften. It was a very important literary journal of writers at that time, and that's 1919. So again, just take a look, see how it appears here. Now, I must say that each translation is in its own unique, right? It's its own very specialized, unique interpretation of Whitman's poem, right? No matter the language, each translator makes an infinite number of choices along the way. The choices are formal, right? They can be in terms of word choice. They can be in terms of a selection of phrases. Okay, what one chooses to emphasize or de-emphasize, depending on literary, cultural, and even political factors. Okay, and there's, again, a lot of scholarship out there right now, on reception in Whitman studies, and also beyond in other fields. Okay, and this is one of my own very long time interests as a scholar. And again, I'm happy to point you in the direction of any kind of like scholarship or additional reading when we're, at the end of the talk. Okay, so now having looked at a few but a few representative examples of translations of Song of Myself. We may ask, why has Whitman's verse resonated so deeply all over the world from the 19th century to today? If I may, some of the answer may be in the last section of Song of Myself, okay, which is again number 52. And I'm going to read just a few lines from here. Okay. I bequeath myself to the dirt to grow from the grass I love. If you want me again, look for me under your boot soles. You will hardly know who I am or what I mean, but I shall be good health to you nevertheless, and filter and fiber your blood. Failing to fetch me at first, keep encouraged. Missing me one place, search another. I stop somewhere waiting for you. So I'd suggest that at the heart of Whitman's project is humanity itself. The cycle of life, the cycle of death, right? How poetry is limitless, okay? And we as readers are also limitless, right? There's something, there's a timeless quality. And so with respect to each unique translation or interpretation of Whitman, there's something there that speaks to readers everywhere. And since Whitman published Leaves of Grass in 1855, the multitude of responses shows how Song of Myself and Whitman's poetry more broadly as a quality that transcends politics, culture, history, and language. In other words, the poetry reflects something at the very core of humanity, and that is why it also speaks to me. And with that, I have some of the works cited, okay, that I just, have for everyone, if you're interested. And a really hearty Whitmanian thank you to all the organizers here, everyone who has, is working hard to put this together. And this is an image of the younger Whitman, okay, from the 1855 Leaves of Grass, the first edition. Okay, thank you very much. Happy to Q&A.